Hey, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining me here on Portage One Pages. Today, the topic is the almighty question and curiosity. I get asked many, many times by sales leaders, how do I get my team to be much more curious? And today we're going to share how. Questions became a passion of mine for the last several years. And the reason why is real simple. It informs the quality of my relationships and it informs the quality of my engagements with customers and prospects alike. And today I've got an amazing guest, Jen Kelly, joining me, and I'll introduce her in a moment. This is a particularly relevant topic, I think, this year with the pace of change with technology, the advent of AI in the last 2-3 years. The World Economic Forum came out with a study on jobs for the next 5 years, leading into 2030. And what it informs us as leaders is that we need to upskill our teams to be curious, to be agile, to be creative. And all of that is fed by the almighty question. So let me introduce you to Jen Kelly. Jen Kelly is my guest today, and she's somebody I deeply respect for her mastery of both marketing and, of course, the almighty question, as I mentioned. Jen Kelly is the founder of New Initiatives Marketing, a fractional CMO, partners with B2B CEOs to drive growth. She has a deep background working with major brands like Motorola and the Financial Times, and truly understands how to connect strategy with execution. So without further ado, let's roll into this. So Jen, let's kick off. You are clearly very good in my experience at asking questions. I've seen a lot of salespeople and of course marketers too, and executives. Where did that come from for you?
I believe it would have come from somewhere that's not super professional, but it more comes from being quite shy as a kid and as a young adult and, a young business owner, and being given the advice that, you got to get out there, you got to network, you got to be, in the conversation. And one of the best ways to do that is to ask questions. And so that became a way that I could get over a lot of my shyness in doing that. And where it's been developed more and more, it's just because the answers that you get back can just naturally lead to more and more and more better questions. If you're an introvert or, you're not the center of attention, it's okay, because sometimes those make the best salespeople, because you really have to listen to what's happening with the client, listen to the problem, listen to where it is that your product or service could really help. And it's that slowing down and listening instead of the, constant talking, as, stereotypical is with the role, that can really be beneficial. And I remember reading that and just thinking, well, that makes sense to me. That's naturally how I am. Like, oh my goodness, did I miss my calling 20 years earlier, right? But it was through that I realized this is a real skill. It's really needed. And it can be, if you will, a secret weapon.
Do you ever note down a couple? You said you have a list of questions. Like, do you ever note down your questions ahead of time and plan that out, or plan out key objectives, or how do or is it really always the same list of questions that you run with?
No, it would be different list of questions. And I try to balance it because I can be very good in the moment in order to dig into what's really going on with the clients. And as well, I don't want them to feel like we're interrogating them, right? Like question 2, blah, 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 right? So
Yeah.
with our services, it's usually not a one and done kind of sales meeting. There's at least 2, maybe 3, depending on how many buyers there are. So I make sure that I have brainstormed ahead of the call. What are some of the obvious objections that you're going to face, right? Price, timing, we've done this before. We're not convinced, or there's 2 other people, or 2 other companies we're thinking about. The real question about asking for the deal, or asking as well, who else needs to be involved. And I know these sound so obvious once you've been selling for a while, but it's too easy in the flow of conversation just to miss those. So I have a list of questions beside me. I do start quite organically, but then I have to make sure that I'm, referencing over on the side. I've asked all my questions, because that's when I get into the situation we're about to close, and then something pops up, and it's because I didn't ask that question in the first or second meeting. So I have, it takes a while for me to, slow learner on some of this stuff.
Spin selling was I don't know if you ever got exposed to a book called Spin Selling, and they did a lot of research. It's years and years ago that it
Yeah,
got published, but it was
still
a
relevant.
classic. And
Yeah.
and the most interesting piece of evidence that they uncovered is an open-ended question is not enough. Like, I think it's easy to fall back on, oh my gosh, don't ask closed-ended questions, ask open-ended questions. But I learned quickly in my career, it can't just be an open-ended question. You've got to direct it a little bit more and be a little bit more, I'll say, strategic or purposeful with it. Are there particular questions that you find yourself asking regularly that you feel like add more value than most in your conversations?
Oh, well, in our conversations out of left field, but a little bit of humor
Hmm.
works really well in our situation. And our situation being the fact that we work a lot with technical, industrial, B2B companies. And typically in that kind of situation, you've got the engineering team or the technical founders. They've produced a service or a technical product. And at the stage that we come in, they've got a sales team happening and they have built a business. Oftentimes, the impression of marketing is that we're the arts and crafts department, or logos on the coffee cups and that kind of thing. And I do often use that phrase and calling it out so I can really see, is that what you're thinking about marketing? And then that helps me understand, what have you been exposed to? What haven't you been exposed to? But it softened things a little bit. I mean, if we can make fun of ourselves in a little bit of a way, it does break the ice. And so that's one piece of, I don't know if you call it humor, but it always does get a bit of a chuckle. But it allows people to open up and be like, well, yeah, we had someone come in and pretty up our websites, and through that kind of talking, I can see, okay, where are you at, and where can I lead this conversation from there? So that would be my go-to question, the arts and crafts department.
I think humor is magical in some of these meetings, especially building connection and relationship early on. There's another question, and I'll see if this sparks for you as well, that I love. And I learned from I did a year of strategic coach, which is an
Oh
entrepreneur's
yeah.
program in Toronto. I really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, halfway through, COVID hit, it all shut down. It was stretched out over the next year. It wasn't the same for me at the time. And they do great work there. And one of the questions that they use is the futures question, and others use forms of this as well. And the way I frame that one up is, hey, Jen, let's just say for a minute that you and I have been working together for the next year. So we're sitting here, it's August 2025. We're sitting here and having another meeting August 2026, and it's gone really well. And we've really hit what your goals are. Tell me about that. Tell me about what you're seeing in a year from now that would indicate to you that this was a very successful working relationship, an impactful working relationship. I have several different versions of it, of course, but it basically frames up to that. Like, I might use 3 months or 2 months or 6 months or 12 months or 2 years or something like that. But shaking them up, and sometimes I'll take me out of the picture to say, you talked about all these issues. Tell me about if you've really made progress against these. How do you know you made progress? And I think it gets them selling themselves on what's possible, and also gets it more tangible too. I think a lot of us think about, like, I think about where I want my business a year from now. I'm sure you think about the same, and we've got a business plan and a strategy, but it's pretty high level. It's not necessarily really grounded and concrete. And the more I can learn about the concrete of what's going to tell them whether things are being successful or not, really makes a difference in me be able to, I find, tailor it and also know whether it's a fit or not.
I find that sometimes it depends. I mean, oftentimes we really are working with companies. We are the first experience of a marketing team coming
Oh,
in.
right. Yes.
And so sometimes it's hard for them to say, oh, what does success look like? Oftentimes that will go right to leads, number of leads brought in. Okay, well, when
Right.
we get into that conversation, what's a
Yeah,
good lead, what's a bad lead, the whole bit, right? So
sure.
that gets us deeper. But oftentimes they're not sure. And
Huh.
sometimes when they're not sure, they can go to, well, the competition's doing this. If we could just do better than them, that would help. And it really helps us see, okay, if you can't, like, why are we here? What are some of the things that we could do for your business? So if I'm not getting an answer from there, I know we have to show them what is possible. And I know we have to show them, and that's when we can back out and go, okay, so all of our marketing strategies link in and support your business strategy. So that's the way we do not become the arts and crafts department.
So let's play a scenario now on you've got second in command, somebody you really want to nurture in your business, and you really want to mentor them because you see an opportunity for having them to ask better questions, to have that really land well with your customers. What guidance do you find is helpful for others that are learning this and trying to be as as accomplished and as possible?
The first would be to shadow some conversations. I mean, when we work with a client, it's not always me that's the fractional CMO. We've got a team of fractional CMOs that come in, and the earlier they come in the process, before we sign the deal, so the client knows who's on the team. Again, the better with the rapport. And it depends. I've got one in particular fractional CMO. I'm thinking of. You think I ask good questions? This person asks great questions. I have told this person, if you ever decide to get out of marketing, you should go be a diplomat somewhere, because you can just deliver the best news, bad, good, whatever, and it's quite a skill. So not sure I can tell that person very much on the coaching side, but. What I typically do is I'd have a conversation with them, ahead of time, obviously, and just say, look, like, either nothing's off the table here to ask. I'm going to brief them about the potential client we have, any kind of pitfalls I see that might happen, and I would just say, lead the conversation. We would do a little bit of role play. It depends on the person too. I mean, everybody comes with a different set of comfort level to this. If there's any kind of role play, I will role play, and I'll be a little more difficult than I anticipate that we're going to face, just to get them ready for that. And they lead the conversation. I'm there with them, and I just let them know if you get into trouble or anything like that, or you're not sure the next step, just say, hey, Jen, anything to add? And that's our secret code, and I can jump right in. But it's really making them feel that they've come this far. Absolutely, I fully trust what they're going to ask for the client, or ask the client and ask from the clients in those kind of conversations, and just be there on the sidelines if they need a helpline.
That's great. A couple things stand out for me. I say to my clients, because we use a lot of role play, and some of them just, they really resist it at the beginning of our programs, because we're multi-month, like we're working with leadership teams for 6 months, 12, whatever it is. And everybody hates role play. The thing I always say is the only problem with role play is that it works really well. It's a great tool to help you, and it feels awkward. It feels artificial. You're playing a tougher customer or a too easy a customer. I see that in a lot of role plays too, and things like that. But boy, either way, it still works because you're forced to think on your feet and apply it.
Oh yeah. It's just like training for any kind of athletic sport, right? You're doing your drills, right? So you got the what do you call it? The deer in the headlight look. In role play, that's okay, right? You can kind of laugh at yourself and get back up. But I actually like those. It just is a way to make all the mistakes before you really are on with the client.
The other piece to build on yours on the guidance is the one that I play with a lot is to guide people to flex a little bit more in the meeting. And that what I mean by that is to really listen for what you're hearing, what the client's saying, what they're sharing, what's underneath that. Trust your instinct and load that into the next question. Like the way I think about it is tell them what you're seeing and then ask for what they think or how they're feeling about that or whatever it is. But I think this can power up questions for people. I find where it goes flat when I'm training salespeople or even pre-sales technical support or support people or whatever else and asking questions the questions become too generic. And when we start to load it in, so, how are you feeling today? What's your value proposition? Like, these are all like rote questions that if you're not building on it quickly, it can feel very flat as a conversation. But when I'm starting to flex in my observation skills, my intellect, my experience in the business or whatever else, and load that into the next question. I'm not sure you weren't like, I see that with you a lot too. Like you're listening, building, listening bit like, so why I think of it as the staircase when I hear you asking questions. You mentioned that, it was more of an innate skill. You didn't realize it was a superpower till maybe you went through more sales training as well. Were there a couple aha points or a couple key learnings that have had you become more aware with the distinctions around how you ask questions?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. While I might be able to come to it intuitively, or this is a skill I've naturally developed, there can be blind spots there as well. And the blind spots that have been, I guess, recently pointed out to me. And when I say pointed out, I can see it. If we've got a client coming along and we're about to sign, or there's some hesitation about signing, or there's some hurdles, it'll be like, oh yeah, I didn't ask about that earlier on. So I see how we're stalling. Going off, the feeling of the conversation is not always the best thing, even though that comes very naturally to me. I guess the blind spot would be assuming. And what I mean by that is if I am selling into a company, or it would be, the decision maker or the committee of decision makers who perhaps are more advanced in business than I am, or have built a larger company than I have, I naturally assume that they know more about business than I do, or I naturally assume I don't have to go so step by step through the questioning, that of course they're coming along with me, and that has proven to be not true. So those are a couple of areas where I can't be intuitive about it. I have to have my list of questions, and I just have to remind myself, like, hey, you can walk people through something in a respectful way to really fish out, like, where's the knowledge gaps here, and making sure that what I am saying is being understood on the other side. So that's a huge area for me that I still need to get better at.
You remind me of a questioning fail I had with a pitch. It was a late stage pitch that happened a couple months ago. And it was with a client that I would call, respectfully an uneducated buyer, hadn't bought training, hadn't bought enablement services before. And my big concern going into the meeting was that they were never going to really make a decision. It's easy to review. They were final. We were down to, I think, 2 or 3 different suppliers, and they wanted their whole team to meet those potential suppliers. That's really the concern I held. And I walked out of that meeting without asking them, hey, what do you need to know in order to actually move forward? Or what's it going to take for you to actually, make a decision and start this, or even the crawler, what's going to hold you back from moving forward at this point? And it was a good reminder for me. I had another person that's newer in my business, Marie, in that meeting with me, and we debriefed, and she pointed that out afterwards. Both of us had not asked the question, obviously. And it reminds me as well that, stick to the questions, but also have a plan going in.
Yeah, that's the one thing I have to say about if you talk about the industry of business, there's room for all, really, like all skill sets, all personality types. We can all win. So that's a really neat aspect of it.
Oh my gosh, the diversity! Like, I really appreciate the diversity I have on my team. My second in command, Anissa, will always ask questions that aren't even on my radar. And I know I do that for her too. Like, I'll fill that space as well. But where we can come from just different, she's very process oriented. She's very methodical. Like, it's incredible for me to watch because it's all the detail oriented. It's all the things I'm not. I think that also helps to kind of get past, hey, we're all going to make assumptions, right? Like your point around, I make assumptions like, oh my God, yes. And we're breathing and we're human. And it's just this is what we do, I think.
Well, it sounds like a great second in command to you, right? I mean, fitting into the areas that you're not great at, that's a good way to build a team.
I'm so fortunate. Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Jen. So it looks like it's time to wrap up. Sales leaders, listen up. With AI reshaping buying behavior, Curiosity isn't optional anymore. It's a competitive advantage. Here's what to drill with your teams this week. Number one, your best reps are often winging it, and that approach leads to stalled deals. Jen keeps her question list visible in every call, even after years of experience. Why? Because in the flow of conversation, you will forget to ask about timing, budget holders, or decision criteria. Then you're surprised when deals stall. Stop trusting the flow, build the framework. Number two, stop assuming your buyer knows what you know. I lost a deal this past spring because I had assumed they would make a decision. I never asked what it would take to move forward. Ask the obvious questions every time. And number three, generic questions get generic answers. What's your value proposition? Well, that's kind of flat. Train your team to observe, then load the observation into the next question. That's how you build a staircase that actually gets somewhere. The World Economic Forum says curiosity is the skill for the next 5 years. Your competition may already be coaching on this, and it's time for you to take action. Thanks for listening or watching to Portage One Pagers.